In this video, we're going to focus on the ellipse. So the ellipse is going to be a figure that's going to look either like this, so we're going to open long, or we're going to open tall. And we're going to talk about the conditions that have to happen to force it to either look like this or this. So let's start by talking about what is an ellipse. An ellipse is the collection of all points in the plane, the sum of whose distances from two fixed points, called the foci, is going to be a constant. So if we were to take, and we could actually draw this out, it's kind of neat. If you were to take a piece of string and you were to take a cardboard box and you were to put two pencils in it to kind of hold something in place, and you were to draw the string, use your pencil and draw with the string kind of bounding you around, that will create an ellipse. And that's a very fun thing to try at home. See if you can form that ellipse that's going to come around from those two foci. So tying the string here and here, and use your pencil, and that string is going to guide your pencil as you go around. Okay, you're going to have something called a major axis, and you're going to have a minor axis. The major axis is going to be the longer of the two. The minor axis is going to be the shorter of the two. So if we have an ellipse that opens this way, our major axis goes from vertex to vertex. The minor axis is going to be this one. Both of them are going to cross in that center. Now your foci will live along the major axis there. So you can see a picture here and here. So this would be the major axis, this would be the minor axis, and we have our foci in here. So let's draw a picture. Let's say we had one that was centered at 0, 0, and maybe it looks like this. So minor axis would be here. So these points, I'll call them 0B and then 0, negative B. And then we'll call this vertex A0, and we would call this vertex negative A0. So C would be our, excuse me, our foci. Now, we could create a triangle here. Let's see if I can change my color. So let's draw a triangle right here. Okay, notice that guy's a right triangle. So I'm going to pull it out. So the distance from here to here is C. The distance from here to here is B. And it turns out that that hypotenuse from 0 to C ends up being the same distance from 0 to A. Now this drawing is not to scale, but that's what will happen. From that minor axis down to where that focus lives, it's going to have that same distance as from the center out to that vertex. So we can relate everything together with the Pythagorean theorem. So we have c squared plus b squared is equal to a squared. And if we were to solve this equation for b squared is equal to a squared minus c squared. So that's where this is coming from, because b squared equals a squared minus c squared. Okay. We just have to remember that c is going to be the distance from the center to the focus, and a is the distance from the center to the vertex. All right, so drawing these, finding this information really is not that difficult. So let's look at a few examples. I'll start with number 19. So number 19, we have x squared over 9 plus y squared over 25 is equal to 1. We know this guy is centered at 0, 0. And let's draw a picture of what's going on. So we're centered at 0, 0. We know some values here. Remember, A is always the larger value. So A is going to be 5, because remember, this guy is A squared. And B is going to be 3. B is always going to be the smaller one. So if you want to draw a quick picture of what's going on, you can use the number under X and the number under Y to do it. So our number under X is going to be 3 squared. So that means we're going to move 3 along the X. And we're going to move to the left and to the right of the vertex. And then we're going to move 5 along the Y. So there's our picture of our ellipse. So from here, it's really easy to see what the vertices are going to be. I love drawing pictures because it makes it so much easier to see it. So our vertex is going to be here, and that's going to be at 0, 5. And it's going to be here, which is going to be at 0, negative 5. And then find the focus, we've got to know something about C. So we know C squared is equal to A squared minus B squared. So that's coming from what we just derived in that generic picture. We had this guy, and our goal is to figure out what C is. So if I add C to both sides, and then I subtract B, that's where that comes from. So the C is going to tell us the distance that we have to move to find the foci. So in this case, C squared is going to be equal to A squared minus B squared. So 25 minus 9. 25 minus 9 is 16. So C is going to be equal to 4. So we're going to move 4, and I'm going to change my color again, along the major axis. So 4, and we're going to move 4 this way. 4 and 4. So our foci are going to be at 0, 4, and 0, negative 4. Let's do another one. Let's look at number 44. So number 44, our goal is to analyze this. So let's start by finding the center. So the center for this guy, remember it's at HK, so it would be at negative 4, negative 2. And we've got to figure out what A and B are. So A is going to be the larger number. So it's going to be the square root of 9, which is 3. B is going to be the square root of 4, which is 2. So let's draw a picture of what's going on. So we're over here at negative 4, negative 2. Now, our 3 is what's under the X term. That means we're going to move this way. You're going to move along X to find the X, and you're going to move along Y to find the Y. So I'm going to move up 2, and I'm going to move down 2. And that's going to give us our nice little picture here. And if you do this on graph paper, it's going to make it a lot easier. So where are my vertices? So the vertices, when we moved 2, we ended up here at negative 1, 2. And then when we moved this way, we ended up at negative 6, negative 2. Getting negative 2. And you can see all we did was move A units to the left and to the right. That's why your formula is what it is. Moving A units to the left and to the right here. Because this guy is going to open long, whereas this one's going to open tall. Okay, so now all we got to do is find the foci. So once again, we know B squared equals A squared minus C squared. That's coming from our sheet. So that's the same thing as saying C squared equals A squared minus B squared. You can use either one to get there. So c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. So that's going to be 9 minus 4, which is 5. So c is going to be the square root of 5. So let me go back and correct a mistake here. Our vertices are at -1, -2, and I just realized that I counted incorrectly. This is at -7, -2. We have to move 3 to the left and 3 to the right, which means I'm adding and subtracting 3 from my vertex. From my center x value to get there. So now we know where the focus is going to be. The focus is going to live square root of 5 to the left and to the right of the center. So to find my foci, I'm going to take my center and I'm going to subtract square root of 5. Excuse me. And then I'm going to take my center and I'm going to add square root of 5. So these are not going to be nice numbers, so I'm going to leave them in that square root format. Okay, just like with the vertex, remember what the formula said? We're going to take the center and we're going to add 3. And that's where that -1, -2 came from. And we're going to take the center and we're going to subtract 3. And that's where that -7 came from. So everything's coming from our format here. So let's do one more, number 52. And in this one, we're going to have to complete the square. So to complete the square, I'm going to group the x terms together. And then I'm going to group the y terms together. And then I'm going to move that 9 to the other side. So when you complete the square, you take half the middle and square it. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. If I add 9 on this side, I got to add 9 on the other side. So this guy is going to factor into x plus 3 quantity squared. But to complete the square on this, we're going to have to think about factoring out a 9. Remember, completing the square, you got to have a 1 in front of the y. So now I'm going to take half the middle and square it. Half of -2 is -1. -1 squared is a +1. But I really added +9 because all of this stuff is multiplied by that 9. So then I compensate by adding a +9 on the other side. So that factors into y minus 1 quantity squared. And that's going to be equal to -9 plus 9 plus 9 is a +9. So to get this into standard form, we need to divide by 9. Okay, reason is we got to have this guy equal to a 1. So I'm going to have x plus 3 squared over 9 plus 9 times y minus 1 squared over 9 is equal to 9 over 9, which is 1. Reduce. So there we are. So here's our form. So let's talk about vertex. Our vertex is happening at -3, 1. Our a value is going to be 3. It's going to be the square root of this. Our b is going to be the square root of this, which is 1. So if we draw a picture of what's going on, our vertex is at -3, 1. We're going to move 3 to the right, 3 to the left, up 1, down 1. There's our picture. So our vertex, sorry guys, that's supposed to be center. Our vertices are at 0, 1 and -6, 1. And to find the foci, we're going to find c squared equals a squared minus b squared. Plug everything in. So c is going to be square root of 8, which is 2 square root of 2. And then we're going to move to the left and to the right to find my foci.